How to speed up open chord changes. This is the update of an older lesson. However, as well as updating the lesson, I've included it in the First Steps guitar course. And you can get the PDF for that course completely free at www.ebooksforguitar.com. And if you've already got that ebook, but this lesson isn't in it, just go back using the original link and download the ebook again, as it's recently been updated. If you're new to the channel and would like to go through one of the courses, you'll find the playlists for each of the courses with all the lessons in order on my YouTube channel, GCH Guitar Academy. And if you're just learning the open chords, there's some extra help on the website. If you just click on the lessons, then select whether you're right or left-handed, then near the top of the page you'll see a link for chords and chord charts, and in there you'll find individual lessons for each chord. You just select whether it's a major or a minor chord, and then you click on which chord it is you want to learn to play, and it'll take you straight to the video. The videos on the website are the same as the videos here on YouTube, but on the website they're more organised, so it's easier to find what you want. Right, let's get on with the lesson. Each of these exercises has been especially written to cover specific techniques that will help you speed up your chord changes. So, even if you've done the chord changes in the past, go through the exercises anyway, cause there's only 5. Exercise 1. In this exercise, we'll be using the chords C, A minor and G7. If you come across any chords you can't play during this lesson, I'll refer you again back to the website, where there's detailed lessons on how to play each chord. The first chord we'll play is a C, or to give it its full name, a C major. Once you've played a clean C major, you can then remove the 3rd finger from the 3rd fret of the A string and place it down on the 2nd fret of the G string, creating the A minor. Once you've played the A minor, you can reverse the process by lifting the 3rd finger from the 2nd fret on the G string and placing it back down on the 3rd fret of the A string, and you've got the C major. Now you can practice this for a bit, just going back and forward between the C and the A minor. Once you're fairly happy with your changes between the C and the A minor and the A minor and the C, we'll move on to the next chord, which is slightly harder, and it's a G7. And to play this, we'll start again with the C shape. And this time you'll lift both the 2nd and the 3rd finger, keeping the shape if you can, and just move it all down a string. So you're playing the bottom E string and the A string. So you've literally just moved that shape over. And then you'll lift the 1st finger and move that up a string, so that you're playing the 1st fret on the top E string. Just a very quick bit of revision. Remember, when you're talking about the guitar strings, you talk tonally and not the geographic position. So to go down is to go to the thicker, deeper notes, and to go up is to go to the thinner, more high-pitched notes. Going back to these 2 chords, looking at the C and the G7th, you'll see they're a very similar shape, but the G7th is almost as if you've exploded the C outward. So the second and third finger have moved down a string and the first finger's moved up a string. So now just practice that for a few minutes, going between the C and the G7th and the C and the G7. Once you're reasonably happy with the chord changes between the C and the A minor and the C and the G7th, try bringing the whole exercise together. And to start with, just practice it without a metronome until you're happy with the speed and fluentness of the changes. Then you can bring a metronome in, starting with a slow metronome beat and building up the speed as you get better. I'll put some metronome beats at the end of this video, but remember you can get free metronome apps on whatever device you use. Here's exercise 1 being played at 60 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. If you think you're ready, try and play along. Otherwise, just watch and listen to how it's played. Hear that is again one more time at 60 beats per minute in case you want to try and play along. Exercise 2. For this exercise, we'll be playing the C major and the A minor again. However, this time we're introducing a new change between the A minor and the E minor. And the change between the A minor and the E minor is interesting because you can actually finger it two ways, and both ways would be correct. The first way to do this change, starting with an A minor, would be to remove the third finger from the second fret of the G string, then move the first finger from the first fret on the B string to the second fret on the A string. So it looks like this. The second way to do this chord change, again starting from the A minor, would be to remove the first finger and then maintaining the shape, lift the second and third finger from the D and the G string and move them down a string to the A and the D string. And this is what that will look like. It's a good idea to try both methods a few times before you decide which method you want to use. But then when you've decided which method to use, stick with that for the time being, because if you try to practice both methods, you'll just be splitting your practice time. And one of the points of this exercise is to demonstrate that the chord fingerings aren't set in stone, and they can change. And they tend to change according to what chord you're going to and coming from. If you think you're ready to try this exercise all the way through, here it is being played at 60 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And here that is again. Exercise 3. This exercise has only got 2 chords, C major and F major. Even though this exercise only consists of 2 chords, for many people it'll be the most difficult exercise, and that's because the F major is really difficult to play. Over many years of teaching the guitar, this is the chord I've seen the most students struggle with. And I'm not telling you this to discourage you, but rather to encourage you if you struggle with this chord. So if you do struggle with this chord, don't worry about it, you will eventually get it. Looking at how to change to this chord, if you take a look at the C major, you'll notice there's similarities in the pattern. And the first, second and third finger remain on the same frets, even though they're on different strings. So, starting at a C, the first thing you do is lift the second and the third finger, which are on the D and the A string, and move them up a string so they're on the G and the D string. The next thing to do is just roll your first finger onto its side so it's covering 2 strings, the B and the top E string. And here you have the F major. This is how that should look. If you find you can't get a clean F, the first thing I'll suggest is to move your thumb around towards the ceiling so that your fingers are forced to lie flatter against the guitar. And if you're still not getting a clean F, I suggest you watch the video I've done just on this chord, and I'll put the link to that video down below in the description. Here's how this exercise should eventually sound, with a metronome beat at 60 beats per minute and a 2-bar introduction. Either try to play along with it or just watch and listen to how it's done. And here that is again, in case you want to try and play along. Exercise 4. This exercise has got 4 chords: E minor, A major, D major, and G major. Part of what this exercise demonstrates is that sometimes there aren't any shortcuts or finger cheats. You just have to speed up the chords the old-fashioned way, with practice. But it's not all bad news, because there's at least a cheat between the first and the second chord. So if you start the exercise with the E minor, playing it with the first and second finger in the second fret of the A and the D string, then to go between the E minor and the A, you simply move these 2 fingers, keeping the pattern, up 1 string to the D and the G string. Then you place the 3rd finger alongside the 2nd finger in the 2nd fret of the B string, and you've got the A major. And this is how that should look. Moving on to the next chord, from the A to the D. They've got very little in common fingering wise. However, if you use this method, you might find it slightly quicker. And that is, starting with the A, you first remove the 3rd finger from the 2nd fret on the B string, then move the 1st and the 2nd finger down 1 and 2 strings respectively. Then you can place the 3rd finger back on the 3rd fret of the B string, and you've got the D. So this is how that would look. Sadly, the last chord change, which is a D major to a G major, the fingers have nothing in common. So you just have to speed it up the old-fashioned way and practice the chord change. Here's what that looks and sounds like anyway, starting with the D. Once you've practiced all 4 of these changes, You can then try putting the whole exercise together. As usual, I try it without a metronome at first. And if you do try it with a metronome, I start with a very slow beat. And watch out, because not only have we got the changes we've gone through, but we've also got different changes where the chords are in a different order. Here's the entire exercise being played at 60 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. If you're not ready to play along, don't worry, just look and listen to how it's played. And here that is again, in case you want to try and play along. Exercise 5. In this exercise, we just have a C major and a G major. This exercise is to reaffirm the fact that sometimes it's a good idea to use different fingering for a chord other than the fingering that's normally suggested. So for example, in this exercise we've got a G major, which in most chord charts is suggested to be played with the first, second and third finger. However, in this exercise we'll be playing it with the second, third and fourth finger. And this is because it's a lot easier to change between the G major and the C major when you finger the G major this way. Here's the easiest way to change between those two chords, starting with the C major, played normally with the first, second and third finger. However, we then remove the first finger and move the second and third finger down a string. So it's no longer playing the A and the D string, but we're playing the E and the A string. We can then just place the fourth finger down on the 3rd fret of the top E string to make the G. Here's what that looks like, starting with the C and going to the G, but then going back to the C. Here's that exercise being played at 60 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. If you think you're ready to try play along, do so. Otherwise, just watch and listen to how it's played. And here that is again, at the same speed with a 2-bar introduction. Right, let's conclude this lesson with a recap of what we've learned and some tips to help you speed up your chord changes. Tip 1. Look for pivot notes, which are notes that don't need to be moved between the 2 chords, so you can leave them in place. Tip 2. Look for patterns in the fingering of the chords, so you can move the patterns between the chords. Tip 3. Don't worry if you have to change the fingering of the chord from the recommended. If you find an easier way to play the chord, go with it. Tip 4. If you're playing broken chords, for example with something like finger picking, place the fingers down first, that are the first fingers to be played. Tip 5. If you're playing broken chords or partial chords, or in other words, you're not playing all the notes in the chord, you don't have to put those fingers down. Tip 6. To speed up the chords, try playing along with the metronome or a backing track or a drum machine, or even play along with the metronome in your head. And keep increasing the speed very gradually. Tip 7, the last tip. Don't worry if you're having trouble speeding up. Just take your time. It can take months or years to get to full speed. Just don't push yourself too hard, because it'll then become a chore and you won't enjoy playing the guitar anymore. That's it for this lesson. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, and if you haven't done already, please like, subscribe and hit the bell icon. And remember, you can find lots of free lessons on my YouTube channel and lots of free lessons at www.ebooksforguitar.com. And there you can get the PDF ebooks that accompany all the courses completely free. And this particular lesson is part of the First Steps guitar course. I'll put a link to the playlist for this course down below in the description. Thanks again for watching.